So let me just introduce myself. Guy Yechiav. People just call me Guy. Don't need to try to pronounce the last name. I have about 22 years experience, supply chain, retail, CPG, demand management, trade promotion management. But in the last 5 years, I've been the CEO at Profitect, working with retailers just like you. With me here today, I have a distinguished panel. Andrea Weiss.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today. I am the founder of a transformational consulting group called the O Alliance, but perhaps what I'm most proud of is that I'm a quintessential retailer. Spent more than 25 years working with leading retailers as Executive Vice President of Ann Taylor Stores, President of Guess Jeans. I was the head of merchandising for the Walt Disney Company and have been the CEO of a number of private equity shops as well.
Thank you, Andrea. And Seth Hughes from Walgreens.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Again, Seth Hughes. I work in the Asset Protection Solutions division at Walgreens and oversee the omni-channel buzzword fraud, as well as our divisional systems and technology. Our main areas of focus are around safety, security, profitability, and resiliency or business continuity. Been in the retail industry for just over 20 years, mostly at Walgreens and at Target as well.
A lot of many years of technology and business in retail here on stage today with us. So you came to learn and discuss prescriptive analytics, machine learning, Internet of Things. Is all of that fantasy or reality? I have the privilege to speak with a lot of executives in different sizes of retailers. And everyone is telling me today more than any other time, there's a lot of data coming our way. In the last 20 years, we've been dealing with RFID. Now we have Internet of Things, from refrigerator tagging and engaging to beacons on mannequins and traffic, and a lot of data is coming our way. But yet, we're still using the same ideas of analytics and reporting. The paradigm didn't shift to something that everyone can use in retail. So what we're here to discuss today is how we can take all of this data, build on top of it something we call machine learning, which we'll explain a little bit more, because again, as Seth mentioned, we're going to talk a lot about explaining some of the buzzword, but taking all of this massive data, and instead of just telling you or sending you a report about it, hey, you're out of stock. Okay, well, an executive just recently told me, I have so many reports that tells me that I'm out of stock, but no one is telling me why and what should I do about it to continue and upsell and cross-sell. So the idea here on that question of fantasy or reality is that with all of this massive data, if you pepper on it, the machine learning to find things for you, and then you multiply it with prescriptive analytics, that is analytics for everyone. Anyone that can read, right, or listen, can actually get analytics. And so with all of that, the question is, does that mean that no analyst is being required, no analysis is being required on top? And so we are going to talk about specific examples here. We're going to talk about the last decade of where we've been, and we're going to talk about where we're going with all of that. But before all that, I have to tell you a story that goes in my company recently, is that the title of that session should have been Prescriptive Analytics, IoT, Machine Learning, Artificial Intelligence, RFID, Traffic Counters, etc., etc., etc. But they didn't let us use all of those words. With all of those buzzwords out there, sometimes reality, fantasy, we need to go back to the basics. And I don't know if you saw that TV show, which is fantastic. I'm addicted to it because we all leave what they show on the screen. And you can just relate to a lot of the different characters from your day to day. My wife doesn't understand why I like that show so much, by the way. But let's go back to the basic and see something small here.
The less screwing everything up you do, the better. You're only discounting everything 25%.
Yeah, override, yes, reprice.
That would change everything to 25 cents.
Attention shoppers, stock up quick! Go, 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 go!
Shut it all down!
Yeah, you better hurry up, get that TV! Stop, stop, please!
Sales over!
That's just a regular day at a retailer, right? So what we're trying to prevent is all of those malfunctions, right? You had a human error, system glitch, and at the end she came on top and stopped the sale from happening. But let's go back in time and review how we used RFID in the on-shelf availability problem that we used to have for the last 20 years. Just talk anecdotally about it. But remember, when we talk about it, think about IoT. Because RFID, in essence, is one of the first Internet of Things. It's provide you more data on location of the products throughout the supply chain or in the store. Doesn't matter how you use it. But it is an Internet of Things. So that was the answer to all of our on-shelf availability problems, right? IRS talks about it over the years, 99% inventory accuracy, 50% reduction in out of stock, loss prevention, shrink reduction, et cetera, et cetera. All that was good, but something didn't work. And we're going to talk about how it's now working, but what do we need to do when we think about the next wave of more data that is coming our way. So what actually happened? 2003, Walmart demanded for all the top 100 suppliers to have RFID tags on all the product. Remember those days? Right? 2 years later, they reshuffled it. Well, not top 100, well, not all products. 2006, they put it to bed. Well, things that was unclear at the time are clear today more than anything. Number one, it creates more data, not less. So if you used to use data in a visualization layers, how could you, when you have 100 suppliers giving you tons of RFID data at any given store through the supply chain? But something was missing there at the shelf, right? It was through the supply chain and not through the shelf. Besides that, a lot of compliance issues came up with this Internet of Things, RFID, right? Tag efficiencies, the readers, metals can obscure some of the RF radio, right? So, hey, all the shop cards are from metal. Well, what do you do with that? Besides the compliance at the store, how do we use return, retagging? What's the process of doing it the right way so I'm not having inventory inefficiencies and inventory distortion while I'm trying to get to 100% inventory accuracy? So it's not just me saying that it didn't work in the past. Let's just look at the history. 1996, right? The first study, 8.2% overall on-shelf availability problem. So out of stock, 8.2%. 2003, 8.3%. 2007, went up to about 11%. Just recently, Adobe did an analysis, and they came up with 11% out of stock that includes also omnichannel, which is where you see something that you really want online, you buy, you put in the cart, you go and pay, and 2 days later you're getting an email, sorry sir, we thought we have it, but we don't have it. We'll return your money, don't worry about it. So include that, 11%. So obviously we have still an issue with inventory accuracy. Well, what I want to make sure is that let's not make the same mistake that we did with RFID with the next Internet of Things that is coming up our way. But besides Internet of Things, there's a lot of data coming out. Inventory is key, obviously. IoT provides more data, not less. So if you used to use reporting to look at that data, well, it will not change anything because reporting is an aggregation, right? When you use report, you aggregate. If you aggregate, you don't know what's really happening at the warehouse, what's really happening at the store, what a specific type of cluster customers, the top gold customers coming and buying, what do they buy, right? So you need to use something like a machine learning or pattern detection, which means less analytics on the front end, have the machine, artificial intelligence, machine learning, we'll talk a little bit about that, but find those gems, find those diamonds in this big data and tell you what you do right and what you do wrong. Today people are drowning in reports. Don't send them more reports with all of this new technology, right? Do your store manager a favor, take some of the reports that they're using and eliminate them as fast as you can. When I speak with them, they actually tell me, hey, I'm getting 50 reports, I'm only reading 2, and I'm reading only those two things. As a matter of fact, one of our customers, CIO, did an analysis She shut all reports down and found out that only 27% of all reports are being used. I'm sure it's very similar in all retailers. IoT, make sure that it's not in a silo data stream. Triangulate the information with traffic, with associate data, with customer data. Don't just have, hey, this is what the temperature gauges in the refrigerator are telling me, or this is the RFID data, it's sitting over here. But actually be able to harmonize, use it, combined with machine learning. And have a closed loop on compliance. Have a closed loop that makes sure that what you ask them to do and what the data should tell you, it's actually telling you. And use value that is monetary, clear to understand. And with the new generation, you have to use gamification techniques, right? Otherwise, the adoption will be just slim. If you use gamification techniques, that's what makes the new generation tick. With all of that, Andrea, you've been in the industry for a while now. What do you think about IoT, RFID, more data, not less?
So let's go to the next slide. When I think about what you've just proposed, less reports, more insight, I have a flashback, and I wonder if as an industry we actually think that we're going to be able to will ourselves back to the future. It's 1995 and we're at NRF. It's January, it's always the same time of year, and the buzzword of the moment was RFID, and it was going to do all of the things that Guy just laid out for us. And we were going to solve the data overload with a lot of visualization and dashboard reporting. And what we found is that, as Guy indicated with the Walmart test, which at that time was really on the forefront of the initiative, and I was the president of Guess Jeans, and we were one of the suppliers that had agreed to sign on as a wholesale partner for the major department stores in the US and internationally. The reality is that it was a supply chain driven versus customer experience driven use of technology. And what I see today is an industry that is trying to move very thoughtfully from just buzzword to buzzword. Because if we do that, we will just continue to be in this vicious back to the future type cycle. And the solution set is really in changing real fundamentals at the store level, not just simply buying a new technology, but actually changing the way the technology is used. This is being compounded by the flawed execution of what is a well-intended but structurally wrong omni-channel strategy, which is actually creating more out of stock in irrelevant inventory in many stores. We have a compounding on the macro level of minimum wage requirements, which is reducing more and more in-store staffing, less floor supervision, and we've always had as an industry store compliance challenges. So how will we be able to survive as stores in an Amazonian world, which is incredibly data-driven? So for me, that's the question that we as an industry should be asking ourselves. It's more data, but therefore it's going to have to be new forms of analytics that actually move the data to action. And the analogy that I like to use is, what could we do to get the data out of the back office and actually onto the sales floor, or onto the distribution center floor if you run a DC? And how can we turn those frontline associates into real action heroes? And I love your thoughts around gamification, because I actually do think that parallels with also the generational difference when you have a millennial workforce. These are individuals who have been playing games on a device since they were literally 3, 4, 5 years old, and I think there are a lot of lessons there. I think visualization is one. I think that mobile is another. I think that they have a need for authentic, transparent information, and that we should be providing a very engaging way for them to interact with the analytics and data, and potentially even to reward them in the same way that a game rewards a player for hitting high scores. So those are sort of my thoughts. And I don't see this slowing down with IoT. Let's look at this eye chart for just a moment. No one in the room could read it, and that's probably the point here. This is actually from a guy named Mark Turek, who covers IoT in the VC community. And this is just a small snapshot of what the IoT universe looks like in 2016, at the end of 2016. And the projections, this is by sector, so these are applications by different verticals. This is home, this is entertainment, this is, and of course, retail is on there. And the projections are not slowing down. By 2020, we will have 50 billion, that's with a B, connected devices. And these are going to be accepted and adopted by users. We already saw it with the success of Echo this year for Amazon. And so IoT is not something that is just another buzzword. I think this is actually going to become a very real part of the universe and the population we're serving in our stores.
And the question is how to use all of this data.
Correct. Now, Seth, you're a retailer and you are actually living it real time. What are you seeing?
First, I just have to pause on this previous slide. I love looking at this because I see all the possibilities, but as from a fraud perspective and what we can get and how we can drive sales and make things better for our customer. But my other side of my brain, as a systems and IT side, I have a little tear that goes down my face, and I think I see a few of those out there as well too. Before I go into some of our real-life examples of what we've seen as we've dealt with these different data, I just want to go in the Wayback Machine with you and just give you a little bit of our journey that we've had, specifically in asset protection solution at Walgreens. 15 years ago, we built a really, really cool dashboard with the help of our IT teams. You're able to click on it. It was very traditional loss prevention. You can dig down. Someone have to sit in front of a computer. You can go all the way down to video and look at electronic journal and see the receipts, all that type of stuff. It was great stuff. We felt really good about ourselves. Over the last few years, we've had a transformational change, and our asset protection solutions team developed, and we started to take on this idea of comprehensive loss. It's also known in the industry as total loss. Adrian, back from the University of Leicester, recently published a really, really great article that I would encourage you guys to read if you wanted to learn more about total loss. But we're using those same concepts to understand all of our losses that are impacting Walgreens. And as we're doing that, we're starting to accumulate data. And of course we said, okay, what are we going to start doing with that data? And we did what most people are doing is we said, okay, we're going to build visualizations, and that's going to be what we're going to do to make sense of this data. So if you go to the next slide, this is essentially what we did. These are real life visuals that we built in a visualization tool, Tableau to be precise, and that's what happened, right? We had people sitting in front of a computer, and again, we thought really great of ourselves. We're like, yes, that's the answer. But hang on a minute. Actually, this isn't going to fix the problem, right? This might send somebody to the right area, but they have to click into this. They have to analyze this information. And essentially what we did is we caused our teams to ask more questions, which were all great questions, but it didn't fix the problem that we had. So we said, okay, we got to figure this out. We have to figure out what do we need to be able to drive the right action at the right time in our stores to make it simple for our employees to do what they need to do, to protect our profits wherever they are, and which is ultimately going to make it easier and a better experience, I should say, for our customers in stores, because our employees will not be in the back office looking at reports and trying to analyze them, but rather they'll be on the sales floor helping customers because they already know what the issue is. So we came up with 6 main things that we wanted to drive. So I want to pause real quick, and as we worked on our comprehensive losses, we really took off our asset protection solutions hat and we put on the enterprise hat and said, how can we help the whole enterprise? So I want to make that clear that this is not just about traditional loss prevention. This is about all losses impacting the enterprise. So first and foremost, we said we need to have outstanding self-serve analytic capabilities. The key word being self-serve. We already burdened our IT teams to create a bunch of analytics, and we needed a system that they could help us set up, but that we could then create our own analytics and not have to burden them again. Secondly, we said we need to push the opportunity, not pull it. So this goes back to that idea of we don't want people sitting in a back room of our stores pulling up a report and trying to analyze what they need to do. We want them to get that information on a mobile device and that it tells them exactly what they need to do, which is point number 3. We're not going to rely on a training that the employee or the manager took 18 to 24 months ago that they're going to suddenly recall over the last 600 days to be able to figure out how to resolve this particular issue. We want them to know just in time what they need to do to take action. Fourth, we need to be able to know if it's effective. Right? At the end of the day, I can make a dashboard and I can build great analytics, but if it's not helping solve the problem and we don't know, and if we don't know that that issue has been resolved, it's not going to help us. Fifth, we have to quantify it. And finally, sixth, we have to have faster resolution and we have to be able to understand what we don't know. So in these next 2 examples, I want to talk through what we found using this tool that we had no idea was happening. I can sit here all day and talk about how we built these patterns and this analytics and algorithms to identify the things that we were looking for. That's easy, right? But what can we find that we don't know about? So the first example is all about this algorithm that we built that was increasing inventory with consistent sales. So again, we have pretty even sales, but all of a sudden we're getting more stuff in the back room. What we found was, besides the theft that we found, besides operational issues that were found as well, we pushed all those to the side in this one store and we said, well, what's still going on? There's something else happening here. And we kind of dismissed it the first week that we saw it. And then the second week, those exact same products, which were vitamins, came up in a couple other stores. And we said, well, all right, now something else is going on. So after we dug in, we found out that the people that were stocking the vitamins said it was difficult, right? So if you ever go into and look at the vitamins, you have to FIFO things, right? You get a new vitamin C, you got to pull out the old vitamin C because the new dates are usually newer than the old dates, so you got to remove everything, and the shelves are 3.2 inches apart, and you got to dig your hand in there and all that type of stuff. It was a simple problem. But it was a cultural problem that we had no idea existed, and it existed in one specific district. And I can tell you, absolutely, out of the 8,400 stores that we have, would we have been able to see that with any other analytic platform, that a handful of stores on a handful of items had some type of issue, operational issue, that was real and that was going to cause a sales impact in the future? Not a chance. We just wouldn't have seen it. So that was one of our unknowns, and we call that a downstream issue because that was happening inside the store. This next example is built off that same algorithm that we had, and it's an upstream issue. After we ruled everything out, and of course we talked to those people to say, hey, is it difficult to stock this? No, it's not. Okay, great. That's not the problem like we had last time. Then let's figure this out a little bit more. We pulled in some more data, and we found out that there was a keystroke error at headquarters where somebody put in the shelf minimum that was greater than the shelf maximum. Well, what happens when that happens? A whole bunch of product ends up going to a store. And again, this was in a small subset of stores that had a certain format. So just from this one algorithm that we built, this one pattern, we found 2 fairly significant upstream and downstream issues that we were able to see that we would have never been able to see before. And as we take a step back out of the weeds here and think about what we're doing with our analytics strategy, essentially, Andrea, I think we're moving from a center of excellence to kind of an outsourced analytics strategy. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that's very wise, and I think that's exactly where we're going to go. A question that a lot of my clients have right now is really where should analytics sit within the organization? And there are 3 organizational models that that I see, and I see significantly more of the first one, which is still a highly centralized business intelligence and analytics team that is often living very outside of the business. Many of the people in those roles have never worked in a store, even remotely, even in their own onboarding and training into the company. And so the view is a push down from the top view of data. Some organizations are a bit more advanced. They've moved to more of a best practice sharing model where they identify subsets of best practices, and they try to then communicate that in a more consultative role across the company. And certainly that is, I would say materially better than just a centralized top-down view. But the view of this IoT world, this customer-centric world that we're talking about, and what it sounds like Walgreens is adopting, is a much more decentralized, in the business, frontline use of data. And I would say that that's going to be the way we as retailers compete against Amazon, because Amazon uses that kind of formula themselves in their distribution facilities and in now their growing network of retail stores. So that data, if you've not had the experience of going into an Amazon store, you'll see it real time, how much access to data and analytics and what to do with the data that the associates in an Amazon store have. So that's my view, Seth.
Thank you.
If I were try to lay out a nirvana that we would want to have as an industry, we'd be looking for the ultimate marriage of data and people, and that we would not be reliant simply on dashboards and reports. As a matter of fact, I think many of those things reports particularly will go almost away. We will be focusing on the use on the sales floor, not in offices or even in BI departments. First off, we're not going to be able to hire enough data scientists to be able to run some of this ourselves. We'll be running on mobile devices, and the tools will be AI-like. They will be smart, they will learn, they will get smarter with use. More importantly, when they come down to the user, it's going to be just plain language. It's going to be it's going to be Uber-esque, and it's going to actually say to the associate what to do that is going to allow us to maximize and optimize our outcomes. And so my final wish list is really, and even to Guy, I said, Guy, let's put some rewards in there for some successful behaviors so that we can have the tool not only be smart in what it learns, but smart in how it helps us reinforce positive behaviors.
Absolutely, changing the paradigm. Right? Changing the paradigm takes time, unless you have the right rewarding system in it and it's easy to digest. We're here. I could actually open up the whiteboard and go down and talk a little bit about some algorithms about artificial intelligence, machine learning. By the way, you can stop by the booth 1427 and we can sit down and actually talk about mathematical algorithms around it. Those are not new technology, So why today more than any other day at NRF 2017, those buzzwords are the ones that are very catchy. You probably hear them a lot on this floor, right? AI, machine learning, cognitive computing, etc. They've been there. They've been there before. But think about it. At 1902, when JCPenney opened the first store, he didn't think about, wow, I need something like artificial intelligence to run that store. Let's go and find it, right? It was more about going to the basic, buy, optimize, sell, right? And so what is the objective? What are we trying to do with all of these technologies? As Andrea and Seth said, what you're trying to do is to create the compliance across your workers that will be aligned with the consumer centricity. What are we asking? What do we want to do with the consumers when they come to the store? It's everywhere, right? Any magazine you open, any store magazine that you'll open, it all talks about the same things. Same shopping experience, online, offline, wherever she is, should be the same, right? Well, let's make sure that the compliance in every store is the same. Every time you have this specific issue, you would like people to use it the same way. And that cannot be in a folder binder in the back office. It needs to be on the mobile device when things happen, right? So it will be the same compliance across all stores, across all warehouses. You want your consumers to find the product they need, right? So you need to give the right information that is true, accurate, and guided to your workers. You know, you cannot expect the worker not to know where is the specific product. You want to get a great service, they need a great working experience. You need to give them the right tools. Tools that they know, this generation, around gamification, tool that they know how to use in mobility. Not another graph or not another sexy report. You know, any device, anywhere, anytime, right? We heard that before. That's how you want to treat your customers. Well, once they buy, if they buy online and go pick up the store, you know, if a father takes his son to buy the baseball bat at the next sports store, it looks online, it's there. Hey son, let's go pick it up. He goes with the son to pick it up. Guess what happened if it's not there? You have two issues. One, a crying kid, crying out loud, and two, that guy will never shop in this store again. So the inventory better be accurate. And right now, our inventory accuracy across the industry is still at around 70% at best. In fashion, around 65, and in grocery, it's a little bit higher. RFID is helping, but even with RFID, we have a customer that we took them from 80% with RFID to 94% right now. So RFID is great, but again, provide more data. Remember that, right? You want them to have a great experience. Why? Because when you have a great loyal customer, then you can upsell, you can cross-sell. You also need to find the right associate that needs more training, right? How do you find an associate that typically have one item per transaction compared to someone that when she comes to buy a hair color, you say, oh, have you seen this new glove that goes with this hair color, right? Have you seen this new technique to brush your hair, etc.? So upsell, cross-sell. So you need to identify the good salespeople and the ones that needs more training. All of that is in your data. It's in the data today. All depends on how you use it. And remember that, only the best will flourish. It's not news, right? Well, start to use your data differently. Look for a prescriptive analytics solution. The goal is to find those dollar opportunities within all forms of different data, using on-hand availability, using inventory accuracy, as Seth was talking about, right? And distribute it to the frontline users in a decentralized way. But those frontline users are not analysts. Don't send them another report. Tell them what they should do and listen to them. Get feedback, get sentiment analysis back on what's working in the field. That will be the optimal immediate action that they need to take in order to maximize their own future outcomes. Because as we said, we will gamify it, we'll reward them. And this is not a fantasy. This is available today. You know, the best would be from us, but there's other companies out there as well. Just look for a prescriptive analytics solution that will impact really quickly your life today and tomorrow. Any other thought, last thought?
So I have a number. The first thought I have is in the JCPenney's era, if it rained outside, the merchant put the umbrellas on the front wrap desk or by the door. And today, if you're running a general merchandising store and you sell umbrellas, you really never know whether the umbrellas are even out of the stock room. Just the ability to have a tool that could tie into weather data and push out to the stores, it's raining in your markets today, put out the umbrellas or the snow shovels. That to me is worth some very large order of lost opportunity. And that's what I think Seth was hitting on, that it's not just an LP asset protection idea. This is a revenue generating idea. And something as simple as telling an associate as a ping, as a reminder to do that, okay, is an extraordinary help in a traditional retail environment. The other thought I have for all of us is that I'd say the time for all of the discussion around, is retail changing and what buzzword and what technology I'm going to buy, is to really challenge yourself. Isn't really the future of retail the time right now? We cannot go back to the future. This is not 1995. This is not 2003 data. This is January of 2017. And many of the people in this room are taking decisions at this show that will be that can be powerful. And this is the most powerful idea. When I first saw Profit Tech probably a year ago at NRF, and as I have investigated what your tool is and also just this broader area, I believe this is a fundamental change for the business. So really delighted to be here with you. And we did do a white paper on the whole idea of what is specifically a prescriptive analytics tool versus a predictive analytics tool. Most organizations are still kind of stuck around that evolution. The idea that the data can tell you what to do on a mobile device, that is really the breakthrough.
And we are giving that paper away on the going outside. You can take the paper. If we already consume them all, give your information and we'll email it.
So those are my closing thoughts.
Great. We have about 10 more minutes for questions. As we said before, more questions, you can stop by at the booth. But if you would like to raise your hand, we do have a floating microphone in the back. Any questions that comes up? Because if not, I need to talk.
Stop him.
There's one here in the front. Kelly.
Hi, this question's for Seth. Seth, could you talk a little bit about what Andrea just spoke about and how have you implemented some of these this guidance as opposed to reports within Walgreens?
Yeah, so I think the tool, it's hard to describe it in a few words, but with the tool's ability to send the information out, we get to input exactly based on the algorithm that we're looking for and also what we learned. So I gave you 2 examples of unknown items. So now once that we know about those unknown items, we're immediately able to go back into the tool and adjust it to say, hey, here's something that you also might need to look for if this were to flag again. But it really, I guess to answer your question, it has really changed the way that our end users are understanding what to do and the action that they take and how quickly and simply they're able to resolve those actions. In the old day, again, I can't reiterate the point enough. It's, we'd send them to a dashboard or we'd send them to some other KPI and they would have to analyze it and figure it out, and that all takes time. And depending upon which end user you're talking about, that's either time for the store manager to be able to, work with customers, or it's time from a district manager to be able to figure out other issues and resolve higher level issues. So the feedback from our field teams has been phenomenal. When they see these, they get to take action immediately on them. They get excited when they see a new opportunity come to them that they get to fix quickly.
Yeah, and that's because they do want to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
But when you send them 50 reports, maybe they don't know what to do with it.
They absolutely don't know what the right thing is. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Any other questions? Actually, Seth, I'll have a question for you then. How was IT instrumental? Was IT supportive you on the idea of moving from BI to prescriptive analytics?
Yeah, absolutely. They were in lockstep with us along the whole route. When we presented several years ago, they said, yes, we want to help you get there to this position, and they've done that. So it's really been a great venture. They stay with us and they want to get updates because we're even working on some patterns that are going to help them as well understand what's happening with some of the data that's going through.
So Seth, it must also be your merchandise organization must be thrilled to understand real out-of-stock dynamics. One of the greatest frustrations of all is to have a report that's in the back office that says the product is in the store, okay, but it's in the stock room, and we're worrying about figuring out last mile and logistics. I mean, we need to be figuring out last inches and last feet of getting the stuff on the shelves. So I would imagine your merchants are thrilled. The operating people have to also be really happy as well, because now they have an additional form of reinforcing of good training practices, and stores are trained to restock the shelves and make sure we're ready for business every day when you open the doors. But all of us have had the experience where we've walked into one of our own stores or one of our competitors' stores and found empty shelves and missing sizes and missing SKUs. So I would imagine that both of those teams have also kind of signed on besides the IT team.
Yeah, absolutely. We have 3 words going around Walgreens a lot, and those are simpler, better, and faster. And this tool has, we've heard it time and time again from different partners, even in finance and other organizations. Future technology teams that are working on stuff 4 or 5 years down in the future are asking us to build different things to pave the way for the new technology that's coming out as well. So simpler, better, faster has been something that they've picked up on, and they're loving it.
What's happened to Tableau and the data science team? Are they still working with it? Are they working with this?
Yep.
Because I've got a large data science team who's working with Tableau,
Yeah.
and I think they would embrace this, but unless it was going to replace their jobs.
That's what, yeah, exactly right. That's exactly what I think there's a misunderstanding, right? So prescriptive analytics is not about necessarily visualizing data. There's a place for both, right? When I'm aggregating data and I want to know, top line information, I'm going to go to Tableau, right? But when I want to build things that are going to need to be taken or need action to be taken right away, that's absolutely going into Profitect, right? So it's between a report and do I need to take action? It's a very clear line for us now. We were thinking just like you were before, like, hey, should these exist? Does one replace the other? It's not. They both coexist.
And we have that question. It's a great question because we have a lot of time. Hey, I have 60 analysts here. Are you going to replace us? And the idea is, no, we're actually going to empower you, because today, if you have an analyst team that runs stuff on Tableau and find things, you ask them, okay, how do you communicate it with the field? And they say, oh, we send an email. And how many times do you know if they act on it? Well, we never know. We just send the email. And so the whole idea is that when you use prescriptive analytics, if you find things, you start creating that workflow to close the loop with an action. So as Seth said, if there's a report that needs to create an action, use prescriptive analytics. If it's a report to give you guidance on the business, continue to use the reports and the dashboard. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, and for mid-size and smaller companies, the reality is most will never have large BI departments, and they won't be able to find the data scientists that they can afford, nor will they be able to find the talent. There's just not enough graduates coming out of the universities in those areas. So we are going to find alternatives. So this is an alternative that I think really, really kind of shifts this up. I think about visualization tools, particularly Tableau, as something that's really good for really high-level, senior-level review of business, but this gets down to the granular level.
Very good. Any other questions? No. Very good. I would like to wrap it up. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for coming and listening.
Thank you.
Okay.